I didn't meet her when I was hopeful. I met her after I stopped trying to be understood. That matters more than it sounds. Because there's a version of a man who still believes explanations can save things. And then there's the version who's learned they usually don't. I was the second one by then. Her name was Emily. We met in a place neither of us planned to stay long. A co-working space downtown. Quiet, neutral, temporary. That should have been the warning. She sat 2 tables away from me for weeks before we ever spoke. Same seat, same hours, headphones in, coffee untouched until it went cold. I noticed patterns. I always do. The first thing she ever said to me wasn't interesting. Is that seat taken? It wasn't. Nothing important ever starts the way you expect it to. We didn't talk much that first day. A few comments, a shared complaint about the Wi-Fi, nothing personal, and that's what made it feel safe. I'd already been through the phase where I told my story too early, explained where I'd been, why things ended, what I'd learned. I wasn't doing that anymore. Emily didn't ask. She didn't lean forward when I spoke, didn't probe, didn't fill silences. She let them exist. That was new. Over the next few weeks, conversation happened sideways, not direct, not intentional. It grew in gaps, between calls, between emails, between moments where neither of us felt like pretending to be busy. She told me small things, that she hated mornings but woke up early anyway, that she liked cities more than people, that she'd moved twice in 3 years. I noticed she never said why. I respected that. One afternoon, she asked what I did before this job. I shrugged. Other things. She smiled, didn't push. That smile stayed with me longer than it should have. There's a difference between someone who accepts your silence and someone who assumes it doesn't exist. Emily accepted it. We started leaving at the same time. Not on purpose. It just happened. Same elevator, same block, then different directions. At first. One night it was raining hard enough to erase intent. She stopped under the awning of a closed store. So, she said, do you actually like this city? I thought about lying. I didn't. I like what it lets me avoid, I said. She looked at me for a second longer than normal. That makes sense, she replied. No judgment, no curiosity, just recognition. That was the moment. I didn't feel seen. I felt not pressured to hide. We got a drink that night. Not a date, not framed that way. Just a place to sit while the rain decided what to do. She told me she'd ended something serious the year before, didn't give details. Just said, I stayed longer than I should have. I knew that sentence. I'd lived inside it. When we left, the rain had stopped. The street reflected the city lights like it was trying to remember itself. She paused. I don't usually do this, she said. Whatever this is, I nodded. Me neither. That wasn't true, but it felt true with her. We didn't kiss. We didn't promise anything. We stood there long enough for something unspoken to settle between us. Later that night, alone, I realized something uncomfortable. I wasn't afraid of losing her. I was afraid of needing her. And that's when I knew this wasn't going to stay simple. Because the things that arrive quietly are usually the ones that change you the most. That was the plan. No expectations, no projections, no emotional shortcuts. I'd learned what those cost. Emily didn't push the pace. That made it harder. Because when someone rushes you, resistance feels justified. But when someone walks beside you at exactly your speed, you start to feel exposed anyway. We fell into a rhythm that didn't announce itself. Coffee some mornings, a drink some evenings, long walks without destinations, nothing that required a label. And somehow, that made it matter more. I noticed how present she was, not intense, not demanding, just there. She listened without preparing a response. She laughed quietly, like she wasn't trying to take up space. She left room. That should have felt safe. Instead, it made me restless. I'd built my life around independence, around not needing anyone to steady me, and Emily didn't challenge that. She just existed near it, which meant the walls I'd built didn't have anything to push against. They just stood there, waiting. One night, Weeks in, she stayed over. No big moment. We cooked, talked, sat on opposite ends of the couch until we weren't. When she fell asleep, her head resting lightly against my shoulder, I didn't move for a long time. I wasn't afraid of waking her. I was afraid of how natural it felt. The next morning, she left early. Not abruptly, just intentionally. I respected that, and then immediately hated myself for how relieved I felt. I started noticing the pattern. I leaned in, then pulled back. She stayed steady. That imbalance doesn't announce itself right away. It accumulates. She never asked where things were going. That was the quiet danger, because it let me pretend I wasn't avoiding the question myself. One evening, months later, she came over after a long day. She looked tired in a way sleep wouldn't fix. We sat at the table, food untouched. She studied her hands. "Can I ask you something?" she said. I nodded. My chest tightened. "Do you see me as part of your future?" she asked. "Or just someone who fits your present?" That was the moment. The one I'd felt coming without admitting it. I didn't answer right away. Not because I didn't care. Because I cared enough to be honest. "I don't know how to plan around people anymore," I said. She nodded slowly. "I know," she replied. That was worse than anger. "I'm not asking for promises," she said. "I'm asking if you're willing to risk being wrong." I'd spent years convincing myself caution was wisdom, that control was maturity, that not needing anyone was strength. Emily looked at me like she wasn't waiting for reassurance. She was waiting for truth. "I don't want to disappear slowly," she said. "I've done that before." Her voice didn't shake. Mine did. That night, she didn't stay. She hugged me, not tightly, not loosely, like someone saying goodbye without knowing if it was final. The apartment felt different after she left, not empty, paused. I didn't sleep. I sat with the question she'd asked, not about her, about myself. I realized something uncomfortable. I wasn't afraid of losing her. I was afraid of choosing her and being seen choosing, because choice makes you accountable. The next morning, I went for a walk. No phone, no distractions, just the city doing what it always does, moving forward without permission. By the time I got back, I knew, not with certainty, with willingness, and that was new. I called her. She didn't answer. I didn't leave a message. I waited. That evening, she texted, "I wasn't sure you'd call." I replied honestly, "Neither was I." We met at the same place where we'd had our first real conversation. The rain came back, consistent, unapologetic. "I'm not good at certainty," I told her, "but I'm done hiding behind it." She watched me carefully. "I can't promise outcomes," I said, "but I can promise presence." She exhaled, not relief, consideration. "That's all I was asking for," she said. We didn't make declarations. We didn't rush. We just stood there, closer than before. Some relationships begin with fireworks. Others begin with a man finally stepping forward without armor. I don't know where this will lead, but I know this. For the first time in a long time, I'm not explaining myself. I'm choosing. And that feels like the bravest thing I've done in years. Sometimes love isn't about finding the right person. It's about becoming someone who's finally willing to stay.